Welcome back. All right, so today I'm going to talk about early birds in that we're talking about team records in the month of October. So this little guy goes on my shoulder. This is Chubby, a character from the new Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway ride at Disneyland. So there you go. All right, but looking at teams' records in October from 2021-2022 through the season that we just finished in June, I wanted to look at their October starts because I talk a lot about how important the good starts are and how a bad start can just off your whole season. And then I figured, why don't I just total the records of the last 3 years together, come up with where teams stand overall in terms of the record over the month of October? Sure, just for fun. This is what I do for fun. Welcome. So the Anaheim Ducks. We'll just go through this alphabetically in the West and then the East. The Anaheim Ducks have not had a really great start over the last 3 years, but last year they started the season 5-4. There was some measure of expectation they would get better after 2-6-1 being their start in 2022-2023 and 3-4-3 the year before. So overall, their record 10-14-4. That's a 429 points percentage, 29th amongst the NHL's 32 teams over that 3 year period in the month of October, and that adds up. Anaheim, not a playoff team and going through a rebuild. Calgary, 2021-2022, they started 8-1-1. They ended up finishing first in the division. They got to round two. Then they lost the Battle of Alberta, and since then they have not made the playoffs. But last season, while they got off to a really rough start of 2-6-1, and that was both Alberta teams having that problem, the previous year 5-2. So they've had a couple of good starts, which means that overall they're 15-9-2 over the last 3 years in the month of October. 615 points percentage is eighth overall amongst teams, but again, just the one appearance in the playoffs. Chicago, not a big fan of October. They have not had a really great start, although 2022-2023 they were 4-3-2 in the month of October. The overall numbers 7-16-4, a 333 points percentage, 30th out of the 32 NHL teams. So Anaheim and Chicago, both rebuilders, and down near the bottom of the overall standings if you're just looking at the month of October. So those starts, they add up. Colorado has had its struggles with starts. 4-4 in 2021-2022, 4-4-1 the following season, and 6-2 last year. Now, what's interesting too is they end up finishing first both in 2022 and 2023. They were third last year, meaning the season that just ended in April. But they won the Stanley Cup despite only being 4-4 to start the season in 2021-2022. Overall, they're 14-10-1, 16th out of the 32 teams in the NHL, a 580 points percentage. Dallas, not bad when it comes to the starts. A negative record in 2021-2022 where they were 3-4-1, but they've made the playoffs all 3 years, much like Colorado. The difference being they've gone from a wild card to second place to first place. They're out in the first round, the 2022 playoffs, and they've been in the conference finals in back-to-back years since. 13-8-3 record overall in the month of October, 604 points percentage. They are tied for 10th with that number. Edmonton, now this past season, they had a rough start, 2-5-1, which is something that Oiler fans can rally around after that ugly 6-0 win last night against Winnipeg, or 6-0 loss against Winnipeg. Now, the previous years, they were 6-1 and 6-3, respectively. They got to the conference finals in 2022, round two in 2023, and the final, of course, this past June. Overall record 14-9-1, 604 points percentage. I ranked them at ninth because they're 14-9-1. If a team has more wins than another, I rank them higher, even though they have the same points percentage. The tie for 10th at 604 is because Philadelphia, the exact same record as Dallas. Weird, huh? LA, overall, not great when it comes to the month of October. But what's interesting with LA is round one every year, third place every year. They're against second place Edmonton every year. So can we just book that now, Edmonton, LA? Because it looks odd. LA's overall record, 14-12-3, 534 points percentage, which is 19th overall. So even though they're not in the top 16, they are usually a playoff team. And so this year, they should end up being a playoff team again. You would think if they keep that pattern going. There are, some debates going on about who does or doesn't make the playoffs in the West. even though we haven't really got the season fully and truly going yet. Minnesota, pretty good start. The first year on the board at 5-3 after that middling starts. They were second in the division in 2022, third in the division in 2023, and missed the playoffs this past season. But the starts, not a huge difference. They go from 5-3 to 4-4-1 to 3-4-2. Overall, 12-11-3, a 519 points percentage. That's 21st amongst the teams on the board. Nashville has struggled with starts. They're below 500 when it comes to starts, but they have rallied. They've made the wild card twice in the 3 years. Out in the first round both years. That's why you go out and get Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea. 11-14-1 record overall, a 442 points percentage. That's 26th amongst teams in the National Hockey League. So again, Nashville's been able to overcome iffy starts. San Jose, it's not a great picture overall, although the 2021-2022 season, they started 5-3. I believe that was when they had a really strong record against Canadian teams to start the year, but overall, 8-19-1 record, including the 0-8-1 October they had last year. 304 points percentage. That's 31st amongst all the teams. I'm kind of surprised 304 isn't 32nd, but we'll get to that 32nd place team. The Seattle Kraken have had their struggles off the hop. Below 500 2 of the 3 years. The 1 year they're at 500, which is 4-4-2. They did end up being a wild card team. They did get to round 2. Overall, though, 10-14-5 record, 431 points percentage, 28th out of 32 teams during that time period. But again, they did rally in 2022-2023. St. Louis, they have had up and down results, but they had a really strong 2021-2022 season start anyways at 6-1 in the month of October. They ended up finishing third in the division. They missed the playoffs in back-to-back years since then. They did make it to round 2 in the 2022 playoffs as well. Overall, 12-9-1 record, 568 points percentage. That's 18th amongst teams in the National Hockey League over that time period. Utah. So obviously I'm going to bring in the record of the Arizona Coyotes because Utah has a lot of former Coyotes. And I still find it weird that we're not acknowledging that this is basically just Arizona move. But anyways, rough starts. They did get off to a 4-4 October start last season. Prior to that, though, 2-5-1 the year before that. And the year prior, 0-8-1 start. Overall, their record, 6-17-2, 280 points percentage. They are dead last when it comes to Octobers. So Utah has something to change here. They did get that opening night win over Chicago. We'll see how the rest of the month of October goes for them. Vancouver, tough month of October until this past season. So this past season, they had a 6-2-1 month of October, which was way better than the 2-5-2 that preceded it, or the 3-5-1 start before that. Of course, they finished first in the division. They ride that hot start to that first place. Round 2 is as far as Vancouver got this past season. Overall, in the month of October, 11-12-4, which puts them to 22nd in points percentage at 481. But that's dramatically helped by last year's month of October. Otherwise, they'd be lower when it comes to the overall standings. Vegas, a great start last year. The month of October, they were 9-0-1. The year prior, they were 8-2. So Vegas gets off to that hot start with that 8-4 win last night. It's kind of Vegas's MO. What's interesting is, of course, they finished first in 2023 and win the Stanley Cup. This past season, they were a wild card and they were out in the first round. So it's anybody's guess where Vegas ends up. Overall, 21-6-1 record, 768 points percentage, second overall amongst all the teams in the NHL. And the underline means, hey, they won a Stanley Cup. So the fact that Vegas gets off to really good starts and they have a Stanley Cup with one of those really good starts, they're an example of how that hot start can be important. For Winnipeg, Winnipeg starts have been good, not great. 4-2-2 in 2021-2022, 5-3-1 in 2022-2023, and October of this past season they were 4-3-2. Of course, they're a wild card team in 2023. They lose in the first round. This past spring, they were second in the division. They lose in the first round again. That time, of course, to Colorado. Their overall record, 13-8-5, 596 points percentage is 13th amongst teams on the board. So now we go east, and we start with Boston. Boston, the Kings of October. So if the Stanley Cup is awarded in October, it's Boston's. It's not awarded in October. Boston's lost in the first round in 2022 and 2023. They lost in the second round in 2024. But those starts, they were 4-3 in October of 2021. After that, 8-1 the following season, 8-0-1 this past season. So they love October. 24-1 record, 820 points percentage, first amongst all the teams on the board. Thus the Boston Garb. Buffalo does pretty well out of the gate, at least generally. 5-2-1 in October of 2021. The following year they were 6-3. This past season they started slow at 4-5. Can't afford to do that again. But their overall record in October, 15-10-1, 596 points percentage, 12th. So yeah, Buffalo just needs to figure out a way to get the playoffs started in October. Good luck with Gary on that one. Carolina loves the month of October as well. They go 8-0. They end up finishing first in the division in the first year on the board. The second year on the board, 6-2-1. They finish first in the division again. Go to the conference final after going to round 2 the year before. This past season, a 6-4 start, second in the division, and a round 2 exit again. The 26-1 record gives them a 759 points percentage. They are third on the board with that. So Carolina very good in the month of October. Columbus struggles, and it's been a struggle almost every month of seemingly almost every month of the last few seasons. Columbus 5-3 the first year on this board, then 3-7 the following season, and this past year 3-4-2 record, 11-14-2 overall. The 444 points percentage, 25th on the board. Detroit likes the month of October. 4-3-2 start, both 2021-2022 and 2022-2023. This past season, they got off to a 6-3-1 start in the month of October. 14-9-5 record overall, 589 points percentage, good for 14th on the board. The Florida Panthers, they seem to enjoy the month of October as well. Although the season they just won the Stanley Cup here, they started 4-3-1. The prior year, 5-4-1. But the number that really warps the overall average, 2021, they get off to the 8-0-1 start. They finished first both in 2022 and, of course, this past season. They were a wild card team in the middle. They go from round 2 to the final, to the Stanley Cup. It's that progression they love. It's the same kind of progression that the Oilers are looking to emulate as they go from round 2 to the Stanley Cup final this past year, and now they're trying to win a Stanley Cup. The overall record for Florida, 17-7-3, 685 points percentage, which is 5th out of all the teams in the month of October, and a Stanley Cup. So, for the Cup winners, Vegas 2nd in terms of October record over the last 3 years, Florida 5th in terms of overall record in the month of October, and Colorado 16th. So 2 out of 3 showing that those quick starts can be important. Although, with the Stanley Cup wins, Colorado was 500 after the month of October, the year they won the Cup. Vegas was 8-2, and this past season, Florida was 4-3-1. So there you go. Montreal, they had a good start this past season at 5-2-2. The number at the top really does, drag them down. They were 2-8 to start the 2021-2022 season. Overall numbers, 12-14-2, a 464 points percentage. That's 24th on the board. So Montreal, they stay in games. I do expect them to win their share of games here and there. I think they'll be better this season. Probably another year outside the playoffs, but we'll see. For New Jersey starts well. 4-2-1, then 6-3, and then 5-2-1. Of course, they only make the playoffs once. They were second a couple years back in their division, and they made it to round 2 by knocking out the New York Rangers. Now, New Jersey's overall record, 15-7-2. I rounded it up to a 667 points percentage. You can call it a 666 for the Devils. Just felt a little on the nose. And they're 6th overall in the NHL standings. So, do they like the month of October? Clearly, but they have not had that success come playoff time outside of that win against the Rangers in 2023. The New York Islanders, they're middle of the pack when it comes to the month of October. 3-2-2 in 2021, 5-4 the year after, and this past season 4-2-2. 2 out of the 3 times they make the playoffs, wild card in 2023, third place in 2024. Both of those years they're out in the first round. 12-8-4 record, 583 points percentage, 15th on the overall standings amongst these teams. The New York Rangers, they like the month of October. 6-2-1 in 2021, 5-3-2 in 2022, and 7-2 in 2023. So they definitely like the month of October. They get off to a good start with that 6-0 win last night. Conference finalists 2 out of the 3 years, out in the first round against New Jersey in the other year. Overall, 18-7-3 record, 696 points percentage, fourth amongst the 32 teams on the board. So the Rangers, very good in October. Ottawa, middling, mediocre in October. 3-4 in 2021, 4-4 both last season and the year prior. So just 500. Overall record of 11-12, 478 points percentage. That's 23rd amongst teams on the board. Ottawa wins enough games to stay in the hunt. They don't win enough games to stay in the playoffs. Seems to be a pattern, and this is one they definitely want to break this season. Philadelphia, no playoffs for them either, much like Ottawa, much like Anaheim, the formerly known as Arizona Coyotes, the Sharks, Detroit, Columbus. Colorado's fine. Buffalo, no playoffs. There are a lot of teams looking at long droughts without a playoff series. But Philadelphia, 4-2-1 in 2021 in October, 5-2-1 the year after, and 4-4-1 this past season. They're not bad in October. 13-8-3 overall, tied with the Dallas Stars at a 604 points percentage with the same record. Pittsburgh starts not great. 3-3-2 in 2021, but they did make the playoffs. They were a third place team. They were knocked out in the first round. Since then, no playoffs. They started 4-4-1 the year after in October of 2022, and this past season, 3-6 record. So they got off to a rough start. They do rally here and there, do those Penguins. In both years, they missed the playoffs, but ultimately they do miss. 10-13-3 record in October, 442 points percentage, which is good enough for 27th amongst the teams on the board. Definitely something to look at. And again, I mentioned with the Rangers, that 6-0 win. Well, for the Penguins, it's a 6-0 loss. So that's kind of tough to take. The Tampa Bay Lightning, not great in the month of October. 4-3-1 in 2021, 5-4 in 2022, and then in 2023, 4-2-3. So overall record, not fantastic, but they make the playoffs every year. Third place, and then this past season, a wild card. Finalists in 2022, out in the first round in back-to-back years now. 13-9-4 record, 577 points percentage, good for 17th amongst teams on the board. So below that playoff line if we were doing playoffs in October, and Colorado would barely make it. Toronto not fantastic in the month of October either. 4-4-2, both in 2021 and 2022, and this past season they were 5-3-1. Slow starts are the way of things in Toronto. But every season they make the playoffs. They were second in 2022 when it came to the playoffs. In the 2023 playoffs, they were second place. And 2024, they were third place. Now, when the playoffs actually got going, it didn't matter where they were. They were out in the first round both in 2022 and 2024. In 2023, they beat Tampa, and then they lost against Florida, who were on their way to the Stanley Cup final. The overall record for Toronto, 13-11-5, 534 points percentage. 20th on the board. So Toronto needs better starts than that. Washington, the Washington Capitals, pretty good team to start seasons in terms of not taking regulation losses. October 2021, they were 5-0-3, 5-4-1 in October of 2022, and the season we finished in June, they were 4-3-1. They were a wild card team in the 2022 and 2024 playoffs, missing the playoffs in between there. And out in the first round, both of the 2 years that they made it out of the 3 years on the board. Their overall record in October, 14-7-5, 635 points percentage, which is 7th amongst teams on the board. So we'll see which teams end up living up to the billing that they've built here with the overall records and which ones don't this coming season. But this is part of the reason why Boston getting trashed in that first game against Florida. I was kind of like, well, A, it's going to happen, and B, the hot starts haven't helped Boston in the last couple of years when it came to the playoffs, as they were out in the first round and second round respectively. So maybe a rough start might be better for Boston. But let me know your thoughts. How important do you feel that getting off to that good start and being able to maintain that playoff position, especially once we get to American Thanksgiving? Let me know how important you think that is, how overblown you think it is. How important is it to be the early bird when it comes to getting all those wins? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.